So we will be starting with the chapter Art Rocks. Okay. Now let me tell you what this chapter is all about. So this chapter is about prehistoric rock art. Particularly here we will be talking about Bhimbetka rock shelters in India, which is in Madhya Pradesh. Okay. And also this chapter uses ancient paintings and carvings to explain human evolution, the daily life of early humans, and the significance of art as a historical record. Okay. So we will be going through all these things in this chapter. So let's start. So this travelogue is about Bhimbetka. Travelogue means this is a film or a book or an illustrated lecture about the places visited by or experiences of a traveler. And in this chapter, who the traveler is? The writer. Okay. Rakhshanda Jalil. Okay. Her name is Rakhshanda Jalil. Then this travelogue is about Bhimbetka, the prehistoric rock shelters in Madhya Pradesh, where early humans painted scenes from their life and their world. Bhimbetka, as the author realizes, is an awe-inspiring gallery. Awe-inspiring means a thing which is very impressive, okay, which is very attractive. So it has awe-inspiring gallery displaying art that dates from the Paleolithic. Paleolithic means the early Stone Age, okay, and this ranges from approximately 2.5 million years ago to around 10,000 BCE, okay, and this was the earliest, the first one, and the longest period of human prehistory, okay, and to the medieval, the Middle Ages, right? All on one stony canvas. Stony canvas means all are there stones and rocks there. So on those stones and rocks you will find all those canvas, all those paintings. Okay. So we find records of life starting from the period where people were hunter gatherers. So hunter gatherers are the people who live by hunting wild animals, fishing and gathering wild plants for food, and they don't do farming. Okay, so they depend on all these things for their survival. So here we will find records of life starting from the period when people were hunter-gatherers to the time when iron technology had become quite insignificant. A study of these paintings gives us an insight into the activities of prehistoric people, their clothing, the animals they had, and the numerous other facets of their daily life. Now, why they have painted all this on these stones? Why they have made paintings? Because earlier there were no paper, there were no books. Okay, there were no written records. So everything they used to record, they used to make paintings out of it. Okay, so that so that now we people for the future, so that we people the future will understand what all they have did, their victories, their experiences. They all used to paint them. Okay, so now let's start with the chapter. Fresh from the book launch of Ijlal Majid's stunning new poetry collection in Bhopal, I find myself gazing at the rock shelters of Bhimbetka and murmuring his verses over and over again. So the writer, she went to this book launch of Ijlal Majid, where in his book it everything about Bhimbetka was mentioned. Okay, so she was very fascinated. For indeed, there is something sublime about this place. Sublime means something very exciting. See here, uplifting, inspiring about this place, right? So there is something sublime about this place. Looking at the ochre and the fire engine red paintings drawn by humans' hands several thousand years ago. Ochre, ochre has a combination of red and yellow color. Okay, and then what do you mean by fire engine red paintings? Means there was a combination of red, okay, and along with a specific type of clay for white, right? So the paintings are made of red, yellow, and then a special type of clay, white. Okay. So and these were made by human hands, right? And they were not like painted by any technology. They were all made by human hands several thousand years ago. Spotting a buffalo or a deer, seeing how our earliest ancestors fought, sang and played, make Bhimbetka a singularly unusual place. So I've already told you that whatever they used to show or they used to keep records of, they used to paint all these things. So they used to paint a buffalo or a deer, maybe that was a sign of their victory or something related to that. Okay, and why this chapter is all about rock art? Because here they are, here in this chapter they are referring to human made markings, paintings, sculptures made on natural stone surfaces. Okay, and typically dating from many thousand years ago. So an archaeologist, now who is an archaeologist? So an archaeologist is a person who studies human history and prehistory, okay, through the excavation of these sites, right? So this was an archaeologist, Vishnu Sridhar Vakankar. He chanced upon these rock shelters in 1957 by traveling by train to Bhopal. So by chance he discovered these. Okay, found by chance. So hidden in a dense, almost impenetrable forest. Impenetrable means very difficult to enter because it was surrounded all by bushes. So hidden in a dense, almost impenetrable forest inhabited by wild animals, these shelters had long found mention in the popular culture of the Adivasis. So why he has mentioned this Adivasis here? Because these people they live in forests. Okay, so maybe that is why they found all these things. They were aware of these shelters, right? Because this was also hidden in a dense forest. Then during the Buddhist era, some stupas were built in this vicinity. Vicinity means in the neighborhood, and the region became associated with Buddhist lore. So earlier, this place was because it was surrounded near the vicinity of stupa, so that is why this was related to Buddhist era, Buddhist lores, Buddhist stories. Okay, so they used to think that this is something, these sculptures are something related to Buddhist culture. Okay, but the name Bhimbetka, however, is associated with Bhima. So Bhima was one of the Pandavas in in Mahabharata. We all know this, right? He was the second of the five Pandava brothers, right? And this is associated with him because this warrior prince from Mahabharata, known for his immense strength. He had that immense strength. He was so powerful. He has a huge body. Okay, so the word Bhimbetka is said to be derived from Bhim Bhetka, meaning the betak, a sit down or seat of Bhima. Because it was believed that during the exile, Bhima used to rest here, used to sit here. Okay, that is why this is known as a sit down or seat. So Vakankar means Vishnu Sridhar Vakankar, the archaeologist. Serendipitous discovery brought the 700 odd rock shelters. Serendipitous means, see here, by a happy coincidence, because we read that this was discovered by chance. Okay, so Vakankar's serendipitous discovery brought the 700 odd rock shelters spread over 10 kilometers and the stunning paintings in red or white with the occasional flash of yellow or green to world attention, causing UNESCO to declare them a World Heritage Site in 1970. So when he discovered this place by chance, so he founded 700 rock shelters inside it, and it was spread over 10 kilometers with that stunning paintings in red, white, yellow, or green, which which made UNESCO declare it a World Heritage Site in 1970. Okay, now let's read the location of this place. So, situated 45 kilometers from Bhopal at the southern edge of the low-lying Vindhyachal hills. Okay, these rock shelters are made of massive sandstone rocks, balanced on each other to form natural shelters from the sun, wind, and rain. So they are made in such a way, they are settled in such a way that they give shelter to animals, to wildlife, to people whosoever visit there in the forest, deep inside the forest. Natural shelters from the sun, wind, and rain. These are made in such a way. So on the smooth underside of the rock faces, we find painted scenes from an ancient past, showing the earliest traces of human life in India. Now, we can easily get to know the ancient life of the people from these painting scenes, these paintings, right? Scientists believe that these rock shelters deep in the forested heart of Indian subcontinent were inhabited by hominids more than 1 lakh years ago. Who are hominids? Early humans. Okay, were occupied by hominids about 1 lakh years ago. The rock paintings found here are approximately 30,000 years old, belonging to the Paleolithic age. A cluster of rock shelters is called the zoo. Now, cluster of rock shelters is called the zoo because why this is called a zoo? Because there were paintings. There were paintings of the animals there. Okay, and let me tell you what all animals like Barasingha, buffalo, deer, then elephants. These all were painted there. Okay, so that is why he has referred to as zoo. Then also you will find another rock showing a peacock, a snake, a deer, and also the sun as well. Okay. Now painted at different times from the Mesolithic to the medieval ages, it shows a profusion of animals and birds in the most vivid colors and lifelike forms. Now, because it was painted from the Mesolithic to the medieval ages, means it was painted by different times by different people. Okay, so it shows a fusion of all those of the fusion of the cultures of those people. Okay, the profusion of animals and birds in the most vivid colors and lifelike forms means the people who came later they had different technique of drawing all those things. That is why it is called a profusion. Okay, Then boars, elephants, rhinoceros, barasingha, spotted deer, cattle, and snakes account for its well-deserved name, right? All these were painted there. Elsewhere, scenes depicting hunting, fishing, and food gathering, as well as communal dances, the use of musical instruments, births, funerals, and burials, make these rock shelters, make these rock surfaces come alive with 1,000 stories. So, because all these were depicted there, the hunting, the fishing, the food gathering, the births, the funerals, the burials, all those were depicted there. They used to tell 1,000 stories. Okay, when you look at those paintings, you will get to know so much about them. Recognizable animal figures appear in many scenes, as do humans, both single and in groups, thus indicating that society had already emerged in the Paleolithic period. Now, along with the animals, they have also started painting humans. Okay, so now from this we can indicate that the society had already emerged into the Paleolithic period. The Mesolithic age that began around 800 years BC after this Paleolithic, because Paleolithic ranged till 10,000 BCE. So the Mesolithic was a time when traditions and religious beliefs based on nature and ecology began to take shape. Now, more cultures took a shape, more cultures came into preference. Then, traditions and religious beliefs also started because now people were more advanced from that age. Okay, they had more knowledge. The Bhimbetka paintings bear witness to how a great civilization came into being, how its foundations were laid in crude like drawings, and how later generations filled these outlines with color, detail, a sharp eye, and a lively imagination. Now, these paintings are a witness to how a great civilization came into being, right? Because it was a civilization and altogether. There were people, there were animals, there were homes, they were living, they had their whole community there, right? But if we see that the foundations are laid in crude like drawings, so earlier the drawings were made and then the later generations who came, they filled colors in it. The red color, the yellow color, the green color, then black from charcoal. Okay, so they filled colors with lively imagination, with detail and everything. Then people belonging to different evolutionary time groups use the same rock surfaces as the canvas. Thus, multiple scenes are either superimposed or drawn alongside. So, the later people they use these rock surfaces as the canvas, means as a drawing sheets. Okay, thus multiple scenes are either superimposed or drawn alongside. The oldest and most muted and comparatively cruder paintings are usually closer to the rock base. So why they were referred to as cruder paintings? Because they were unrefined. They were not well. They don't have that well technique. They were simple. They were often lacking a formal technique. Okay, so they were crude paintings. They are usually closer to the rock base. Okay, now as the eye travels upwards, the scenes are remarkable for their detailing: a spotted deer, a gaily decorated horse, a man carrying a plumed handheld insignia. Insignia means a badge or an emblem showing membership or rank in an organization, similar to the one still used by Adivasi dancers, horse-borne riders carrying blunt stone instruments, and then progressively bows and arrows and masked figures. Masked figures means many people engaged in a battle. So what all these paintings depicted were? So depicted a deer, yeah, right, a hunting deer, antelopes, and other prey as well. Then spear and bow and arrow are the main weapons of hunting. Fish and turtle were also being caught in a net, and then rats were also being driven out of the burrows to be caught. So all these paintings are there. Then there are also the paintings are classified in two groups: in hunters and then food gatherers, and others in fighters riding on horses, elephants carrying metal weapons. Okay, so all these were depicted there. Then also most of the paintings from the historic period also depict battles between rulers carrying swords, spears, bows, and arrows. Right? Because I already told you, because why they used to paint these, because they used to depict something, their victory, their life experiences, what all they use, what all they eat, what all they wear. Okay, so they used to depict all these things through their paintings. That is why all these things are painted there, about their bows, their arrows, their battles, everything. So overwhelmed by the tableau set out before our eyes. Tableau means figures representing scenes from a story or a history. Okay, before our eyes, a small party of three sought a quiet corner to take in the enormity of human evolution displayed almost chronologically before us. Chronologically means in the order in which they happen. So when they visited there, they were used to differentiate that this used to happen at this time, then after this, and then after this, like chronologically, okay, in a particular order, in a specific order. So we were happy when we found a ledge at the far corner of viewpoint. So if we talk about a ledge is a narrow horizontal surface, which is coming out of a wall or a cliff. So they were happy they found a ledge at the far corner of the viewpoint. Now propped up against a smooth rock face, we sat in companionable silence gazing at the patchwork, quite spread out by nature. The setting sun was turning the fields of mustard to molten gold. The tender green of unripe wheat alternated with a darker olive of stately sal trees. Now, sal trees are very common there, and the earth and sky seemed to meet in perfect harmony on the distant horizon. So now, when they were sitting and they were enjoying the place, they felt all these things. The setting sun was turning the fields of mustard to molten gold because the yellow color of the sun was turning those mustard fields to now golden color. Then the tender green of unripe wheat alternated with a darker olive of stately sal trees, and then the earth and sky seemed to meet in perfect harmony on the distant horizon. Now, the horizon is the end point. When the earth and the sky they appear to meet together, so they were enjoying that scene there sitting. Okay. So just as we were visualizing how utterly magical the view of a ledge would be during the rains and making plans to coming again during the monsoon, the stillness was snapped in the rudest manner possible. So while the writer they were sitting, these people they were sitting and enjoying the place, and they were making plans to come again during the monsoon. The stillness was snapped in the rudest manner possible means a sudden interruption of the peaceful movement. It came right. The great Indian tourist arrived unbidden and like the proverbial bull in a china shop. Now proceeded to have a long and loud conversation on his cell phone, thus shattering the silence that we had been reveling in. Now, as they were enjoying the moment, sitting there quiet and just looking at the view, they were disturbed. They were interrupted by some tourists, and because they were talking loudly on their phone, on the cell phone. So this shattered the silence, and as they were engaged in. Okay, so supremely unaffected by our glares and pointed shh, he continued an endless monologue in his becoming voice till finally we conceded defeat and chose to get up and leave. Now, when they because he was talking so loudly on the cell phone, so they said, shh, keep quiet, don't make such a noise, right? But they had to they were defeated, they had to give up and they had to leave that place because that person was not agreeing, because not agreeing of being quiet. So they decided to get up and leave the place. But nothing and nobody could take away the awe we carried home with us, an awe that still makes me break out in goosebumps as I visualize Bhimbedka in my mind's eye. Even still, whenever she thinks about Bhimbedka, her visit there, she still had goosebumps on her body. Okay, that place was so awe-inspiring, so attractive, so it had so many memories on the writer's mind. She is not able to forget that experience. Okay, so here we come to the end of the story, and I will post this exercise in the next video. Okay, thank you.